Hello and welcome to our podcast, Handing You the Microphone. Today we've got Mick sharing his lived experience alongside his retired guide dog Molly, who you may hear in the background. Mick talks about his experiences with visual impairment and mental health, so some of the things discussed may be upsetting to hear. There's references to death, low mood and suicide. The wording and views used by our guests are reflective of their own opinions and not that of the Sun Network.
Hello and welcome to our podcast. I am Charlotte from the Sun Network.
Hi, I'm Rachel from the Sun Network as well.
And we're here today with Mick. Mick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mick Scadden. I'm severely sight impaired, and they've been interviewing me this morning on my lived experience.
Thank you.
The sight I've got, it's nighttime all the time, yeah?
Yeah.
So I have got some sight, but it's nighttime. But it's a bereavement because you know when you've had sight, you know what you're missing in full sight. You know, the colours, seeing people's faces, features, and stuff like that. You know, when you go on holiday, you know what the Scotland looked like when you had sight, and you don't. So yeah, it's a different ball game now, but I think the thing with me, when I lost I lost my sight overnight, so I was possibly 2 years into not wanting to be here. You know, sitting near the train line, bridges, but I met somebody from Camsight, and I'd done counselling, and that was the best thing I could ever do, because if you're part of my family and I'm talking to you about suicide or the thoughts I'm having, the moment I walk out of there and you can't get hold of me, your first thoughts is what has the sod done? But if you go to counselling, you can have a group of you, and you're all going through whatever eyesight condition you've got, and you're all trying to come to terms or to cope with it the best you can. So you can say what you want in the group, and you know that when you walk out of that group, maybe 2 hours later, you're not being judged, you know, because everybody is in the same boat, you know. Whereas one day I'm feeling down in the mouth, not coping with the condition, you know, with certain stuff that's going on in that particular day. Somebody else who is, they'll pick you up. Yeah. You know, you'll make friends, and they ring you and say, "How you getting on? I'm not great today," and you can bounce off each other. And I would say that prior to going to counselling, if you'd have asked me what I thought of counselling in any shape, form, I'd have turned around, whether it be marriage, drugs related, alcohol, whatever, I would have said, you know, pull your socks up and get on with life. But now I've been for counselling, if you ask me now, I would say, if you need to go to counselling for mental health issues, anxiety, whatever, just go along and get it sorted.
That's amazing.
Because it is the best thing that you can do, because you can let stuff go, and then you're more likely to find that somebody else in the group, if it's a group session, are going through exactly the same conditions that you know, anxieties that you're going through.
Yeah.
You know, I used to, when I used to go for my eye check at Addenbrooke's, I could go to the door of Addenbrooke's Hospital Eye Clinic, and I couldn't push that door open. You might well have been Fort Knox. Mentally, I know that I could push it open, but for some reason I would go up to that door and I can't go through that door. So I'd have to walk away from that appointment, then say to myself, okay, I'll put that experience in my box, back of my head. I'll deal with that in the next day or so. And then I would pull it back out and look at it and say, right, I'm going to make another appointment. Make another appointment, and I could go straight in. I could push the door open. It's really a really odd experience that one day you can do it, another day you can't.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of talks for Anglia Ruskin University, the eye clinics, the ophthalmologists that are going to go to Boots and all the in towns.
Yeah.
You know, I used to say do these talks, and I've done loads and loads. I can't remember how many, maybe 100. And I used to say to Joy, who was always come along, I used to say I'm getting bored of listening to my own voice, doing the same old.
Yeah.
She said, I've been to every one of yours, and she said not one of them is the same. And I said, I find that quite remarkable. And then I'll say to her, like I'm saying to you, I can go and do maybe a talk this afternoon, talk about what's happened to me, and say to them, you know, when you see somebody that's that's sitting in your chair and you look in their eyes and you see something that you know that they're going to be blind, just the words, nothing else. You've got cancer. You're blind. Just the words. Just that is all. And how that will throw you. You're blind. You've got cancer. Just the words alone. So be a bit cautious of what you're going to say to that person, because you're not that person. Really, you'll take the wind from out their sails. Just the words. You know, when the surgeon said to me, you know, I can't do any more, then your world goes into another dimension. But I could do these talks. I'd say to Joy, I could do 20, and I could go and do 20. I could do one, say, this afternoon with an audience of maybe anywhere from 10 to 15 people. And I would be talking about my experience. And all of a sudden, I don't know whether it would be this afternoon, whether it be tomorrow, whether it be the next day, I would start to well up and start to cry. And it wasn't in my thoughts during going there. It's nothing to do with that. But every so often, I found that that's what would be happening, and I couldn't control it. It was what it was. There must have been something that I was relaying, and all of a sudden it would click that it wasn't, and then I would be emotional until I got myself composed again. It's been a real long journey, to be quite honest, and I suppose it still is.
Do you think that when you first lost your sight, or were told that you weren't going to get full sight back, do you feel that you were offered mental health support when that happened? Because you talked about after that period you got in a really bad place, and then you sought counselling. When you were told, do you think that they offered that mental health support?
No, not at the time. I don't think they think it's mental, do they? It's they think it's a little bit like a bereavement, isn't it? You know, you lose your leg, you're gonna go and get therapy for something to come to terms with you losing your leg. I don't think going for mental. No, it wasn't. No.
And when was that, Mick?
What, my sight?
Yeah.
It was 2011.
Yeah. Do you think things may have changed now? And if someone was to be told that they weren't going to get their sight fully back, do you think that mental health awareness is a bit more prevalent in that community?
I don't know, because we're going through some really serious stuff at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, with COVID, it's made more people realise that chasing money isn't all it's cracked up to be. You know, everything can be taken away within seconds.
Yeah.
If it hasn't taught people that, COVID's been a waste. To get your life, prioritise your life a bit more.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you were sailing on the high seas, weren't you, before COVID? Everybody was having holidays, everybody was sailing, you know, getting on with life. But it's made a difference to a lot of people, because a lot of people, I've got friends that won't go out.
Yeah.
From COVID, they're still indoors, they're still isolating themselves, will not go out into the community. And I had a triple heart bypass, so I was one of the vulnerable ones that had to isolate. And lucky enough, I bought this house just before that, so we took a year to do it all.
Yeah.
So that was my saviour, in as much as I got, you know, stuff to keep me sane.
Yeah.
Keep you going. Yeah.
So you think talking to people is quite helpful about, you know, with your sight challenges and around mental health? Is that really helped in your journey? What else do you think has helped in your journey? I know you mentioned about Camsight and counselling. Have you got like other people that you talk to outside of that, and any other peers?
Now I have, yeah. Now I have. I've got a real good group of blind friends that we crack on, and we have a really good time.
That's good.
So we can. There's not a lot that we can't do between us.
Yeah.
You know, we might be severely sight impaired. Well, I am, but the others are all blind.
Yeah.
And I've learnt a lot through them. I've learnt how to cook myself by the time, feeling the weight of a lump of meat. So
Wow.
I've learnt a lot by them, and it's taught me a lot as well. When I had sight, I would be in a group, say like we are now, and you've done me no wrong, but I would take an instant dislike to you for some reason. And we do that by looking at somebody and having been judging them, and you've not got to know them. But by just being in them and looking at their demeanour, you think, I don't like that person. But in the unsighted world, because you can't see them, you don't do that. It's really strange. It's got some really quirky things that you find that where you would get frustrated, I don't get frustrated.
Wow.
Another thing where what I'm trying to say is that, you know, the guided bus track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I say to you, right, I'll meet you at St Ives, and we're going to walk to, let's say, Longstanton, on the guided bus track. You can physically see the distance.
Yeah.
You're fed up before you're even 10 minutes into the walk.
Yeah.
Because you can see the distance.
The road ahead, yeah.
I can't see that.
Yeah.
So that isn't in my thoughts. It's in yours, but it isn't in mine.
Yeah.
Because I'm just walking.
Yeah.
If it's a mile, it's a mile.
Yeah.
I can't see that mile, so I don't know whether I know I'm getting nearer.
Yeah.
But physically or mentally, I can't see that length of road, so it isn't playing on my mind, but it's playing on yours.
So it makes you experience things quite differently and appreciate things in a different
it does.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you feel that you get treated differently by people in the general public? Do you think there's a stigma around people with visual impairments?
When I lost mine, first off, I never learnt with the white cane. So I would walk down the road and I'd bump into more people than you want to shake a stick at. And I come to the conclusion that if I went into a pub and I walked out and I bashed into 2 or 3 people and they had a few beers, they would think that I'm drunk. So there's a good likelihood that we're going to have a confrontation. So I then decided that I would go and get long cane training, which I did. And it still took me a long time to be able to go out with confidence that, you know, you think people are looking at you and judging you. And eventually you've got to turn around and say to yourself, that's their problem, not my problem. You know, if I'm walking to Cambridge and I bump into people, it's not my problem. If they can't see the white cane, that's their problem. But I challenge you, if you wanted to do it, is to get hold of a white cane and put a pair of dark sunglasses on and walk into Cambridge. You would be surprised the amount of people that would walk into you because they're on their phones, they're talking to their friends, they're looking in shop doorways, they're doing all what they know is normal. They are not looking in, you know, what's in front of them on the pavement. They've got, right, I've got this shop to go in, that shop to go in, and It
sounds like you're quite in the moment. You kind of have to be quite just there rather than distracted to help you focus on where you're going or who's in front of you. Whereas other people were kind of not necessarily they're focused on their phone, like you said, or whatever. So that's quite an obstacle, isn't it?
Could be quite frightening, I would guess, when you first start to do it, and you must feel quite overwhelmed.
The thing being, with the white cane, if you're a 6 foot person, you have to have a cane for being 6 foot.
Right.
So when you've got it in front of you and you're doing a left to right or right to left swipe, that's giving you 2 steps forward. Right. You know that those 2 steps forward, you're safe because you're not going to go down a hole. But until you learn that information comes from the ball up the cane, up your arm and to your head, and you're walking pretty slow because you're trying to get that information. I walk, not now because Molly retired last week, so I can't walk her as a guide dog anymore. She's my pet now.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
How long have you had her?
8 years.
And how has kind of Molly helped your life?
I can walk a lot faster. Because I trust her. I did trust her.
Is that quite instant, or was that kind of process?
No, it takes a year.
Does it?
Once you've gone on training, you have to go away for 2 weeks to get to come to meet the dog, and then once you've bonded, it takes a year to bond.
Right.
So she knows my habits, I know hers.
And did the people from the Guide Dog Society come over and constantly help with that, or do you kind of work that out with Molly yourself?
Yeah, they'll when you go to a hotel in March, and there may be 6 or 7 of you there, and then you have a fortnight's training, and then you get the dog, and then they come here. They won't let you go out until you get some routes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that maybe take another 6 weeks.
Right.
But then it takes another year for the dog and you to really bond.
That's incredible, isn't it?
But she's there ain't nothing fazed her. Fireworks, no bangs, no noise. She doesn't bark.
That's good.
She travels everywhere and anything, on anything.
Oh, that's good. That helps you as well then, doesn't it?
Do you think that helped with confidence and just generally being out a bit? Did it give you a bit more safety with Molly?
Yeah.
Could you recommend a piece of advice to someone that may be about to lose their sight or be, that has a visual impairment that's quite new to it, about how they might be able to cope or access services, or how they can just access support that's around, or what they could do?
Yeah, at majority of hospitals now, they've got what they call ECLOs.
Yeah.
A clinical liaison officer. If they're doing their job right, they should get you into various organisations like Hunt Society for the Blind, Camsight, Kent Association for the Blind, wherever they live.
Right.
They should be able to put you in the right position to go and get support in that respect. But everything with visual impairment is a cost.
Right.
Okay.
And it's for somebody that doesn't work anymore or isn't going to work anymore, that's an awful lot of money. Whether you need to access a computer that has got talking functions and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's everything is a cost. But if you went to, say, like, I think it's Sweden, somebody who's blind in Sweden, everything is given to them.
Wow, okay.
Molly's a £50,000 dog. I got a white cane with a ball on the end. When that ball runs out, that's £8.50 a throw. It might not sound a lot, but if I'm walking, which I used to do a lot, now I've got to go back to it. You can run one of them balls out within a month.
Yeah.
So you need another ball all the time. So everything is a cost.
Yeah, it's not your fault that that's happened, is it? It shouldn't be something that you should have to keep paying for. That's a real shame.
Well, the generosity of the public, what they do for guide dogs, that's a charity that the government don't even put their hand in the pocket for.
Yeah.
Like a lot of charities, the government don't. The government always think the general public will sort this out. The general public will find this way for this, for money for somebody that's going through cancer and all this other stuff. But I had a counsellor at Camsight, and I told her, I went there one day for counselling, and I said to her, well, I see things that aren't there.
Right.
Okay.
So when I first went to for counselling, I thought, I can't tell these people what I'm seeing. But I had a counsellor at Camsight, and I told her, I went there one day for counselling, and I said to her, I would close my eyes and I would see a television with a person, and the picture would be so real that I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've got my sight back. Right. And I open my eyes and it's not.
Right.
But it also, doing that, with that, I can also be sitting in a car with you in the passenger side front, and I can see a tree in the middle of the road, and you're heading for it.
Oh gosh.
But I can't tell you that, because it'll freak you out.
Is that a result of partially losing your sight?
Yeah. It's something to do with hallucinations and all that. Wow. The name is from the person who, if you Google it, I think it will give you a bit more of an insight. Some people are convinced in their house they've got a 4-bedroom house, they've got an extra room.
Yeah.
They're convinced they've got another room. Or somebody will see, when you had pelmets around the room, they would see a cat running around the pelmet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good to raise awareness of something like that, because Charlotte and I had never heard of that, and that could be really scary for someone experiencing that doesn't know what that is. So it's good to know that.
Yeah, Charles Bonnet syndrome. It's really an odd.
Yeah,
it is, because when it first occurred, and now I've got used to it. I used to go into a group, and the person opposite, their face would be. I couldn't see the features, but their face would be green.
Okay.
And I would turn my head like that and then go back, and it wasn't green.
wow.
And it's whatever it is, but I got used to it. And in my garden, in my house in St Ives, I fell out of love with my garden. I used to love doing my garden, but because I couldn't see it, I took a year or more, once I was going through all of this rubbish, to get back into love with my garden.
Yeah.
Because I used to be able to do the stripes backwards and forward, and everybody in the road would say, Mick, your garden is absolutely immaculate. And that was my, when I finished work, that was my way of relaxing.
Yeah.
But I fell out of it because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So it took me a little while to get back into doing it. So I've got one of them big plants in the garden that you used to be able to just throw a match on and it set a light, and it would never kill the plant. I can't remember. Pampas grass.
Yeah.
Pampas grass. You could never kill it. Anyway, I had my hand in the pampas grass, and from here to here, I look at my hand, and there's every single insect crawling up my arm. Spiders, every single insect. But I can see them, but I can't feel them.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking, and they're all hundreds, literally hundreds.
Wow.
And when you've got a little spider, if I had a spider on me now, I would be able to feel it and I would brush it off.
Yeah.
But I would look, and there's all of these spiders. And bloke walked by the gut, and I said to him, when it first occurred, I said, "Excuse me, mate." I said, "Can you? I'm not got very good sight. Could you look in this bush and see whether there's a wasp nest?" Because I didn't want to say nothing to him.
Yeah.
So he came in and looked. He said, "No, mate, it's not." I said, "Thanks a lot." I put my hand back in, and all the spiders.
Oh, really?
All the spiders. And I'm thinking, that ain't.
Yeah.
That's really not odd. But now I come to terms with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good that you've found, a new lease of life almost, and a new way of living in a way that you're happy with, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you either you do or you don't. If you don't go with what someone who's just been put in a wheelchair, if they want to just sit on the settee and mope for the rest of their life, they will do, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But you've got a lot of people that will. Right, this is what what about that poor woman who she got sepsis, had both her arms cut off and her legs cut off, and she's still as happy as Larry.
Yeah.
And you think, how do you do that? How do you bring yourself from that point right up to where you are today?
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
Would you, why me? And you do say that to you. Why me? And you do have times when you reflect. Yeah.
It sounds like you have got a good support network around you. You've got people that are looking after you, and you've got Camsight, and you're very open about your experiences as well.
It's amazing as well to use your experience, isn't it? And be reflective, as hard as sometimes that is. I think it's really powerful.
Well, if I can help somebody else, yeah. I got a friend, he passed away 2 weeks ago. He didn't have a dog at the time. I never had a dog. And Camsight said to me, Mick, would you do us a favour? I've gone and met loads of people that that have been told, you know, that they're not coping.
Yeah.
So this particular person, I went round to him. They said, would you go befriend him? So I said, oh, yeah, okay. So I made arrangements, and I can't remember how many years it's been now, but he's got a guide dog that's just retired. So he's totally blind. He came from Herne Bay. This is another thing. I'm very lucky that when I had sight, I know hunting and I know a lot of areas, and I've got a good mental map. Yeah. Somebody who's got no sight but had sight, they'll have a good mental map of where they were living, like Herne Bay. But he's come up here to live with his dad. I met him. He never went out his dad's bungalow 16 years.
Oh, bless him.
16 years. So I went there this one Wednesday and sat in the garden and had a beer with him and chatted with him. And one beer led to another beer and another beer led to another beer. By the end of about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, I said, I've got to go home now. And I got no dog. He'd got no dog, just a white cane. And I said to him just before I was leaving, mad as a mat, I must be nutty. I said, do you want to come out tomorrow? And he said, yeah. And I thought, okay. And I walked away and got on the bus, went home. And I said, I'll meet you. I'll come here at 9 o'clock in the morning. When I get off the bus, he's sitting on the wall waiting. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? So I said, we're going to walk from your bungalow door to this road, and I want you to count the steps. So we counted the steps to the edge of the road, and it was 16. I said, we're going to go back again and do it again. And so I said, no, you've got 16 in your head, yeah? He said, yeah. I said, I'm going to walk across the road and I'm going to count the steps, because he's roughly about 6 foot and I'm not that, 5'4", yeah? So my steps are going to be different to his. So I walked across the road to the other side and walked back, and I counted roughly about 22 steps. So I then asked him to walk across the road and count the steps. So he counts the steps, and then he goes back and counts them again. So he's got 16 and whatever it would say, let's say 22. So then we've walked from there to the bus stop, counting steps. Eventually, after a couple of days, he walked from his house to the bus stop. I told him to get on that bus. I told him to ask the driver to let him off at St Ives. And then he got off at St Ives and I met him at St Ives.
Wow.
And then from St Ives, we got back on the bus and we went to Cambridge. And he could do all of that himself within 2 or 3 weeks.
That's incredible.
Within 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, amazing.
Then we become pretty good friends.
Yeah.
But again, there's sometimes when they're going through mental health issues and you're with them all the time, I become aware that if I didn't pull away, they were pulling me back into my old things that I dealt with. So I would have to come away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would be going through the same as they are going through.
Yeah.
So I now got a good. If that happens, I just have to turn around and protect myself.
Yeah, of course.
Definitely.
I have to do that. Otherwise, I'd be no good. I'd be in the same vein. It's, you can only do so much, and then once that starts to impact on you, once you find that it's there when you're sitting down, you're thinking of it and all of this, that's the time you've got to turn around and say, as much as I want to, I can't. No disrespect. Yeah, I found loads of different ways that I've had to cope with stuff.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've got to look after yourself, haven't you? So
yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah. But you when it's going to impact on you. So you just got to say to yourself, a little bit like making a bit of an excuse. I've got this to do for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Just to give yourself a step back.
Have a break.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to mention then about your experience of mental health and visual impairments? Any key messages that you've not really covered that you think is important or other people should hear?
Don't write us off.
Yeah.
Don't write us off. I chair the Centre Impairment Board for Health Watch.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
And I've been doing that since 2016. It used to be before Health Watch took it over, it used to be Physical and Disability and Sensory Impairment Board.
Do you enjoy that work? The work to do the speech?
I did. COVID's changed that.
Oh, yeah.
I used to like going to the meetings and having a room full of different people, whoever we're inviting.
Yeah.
Because it's on Zoom now, I don't quite get that interaction.
It's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not loving it as much as I liked it, but when it was the county council had it first off, and I got invited. Before a couple of weeks into it, I said to them, I'll join this as an independent member because I can say stuff that I don't have to worry that I'm going to get sacked. If you don't want to hear it,
Don't have to.
tough.
Yeah.
I can say it because I'm not impeded by it. Don't say that, otherwise you're going to lose your job.
Yeah.
So I found that was quite good. But I said to them at the time, don't have me on board thinking it's just a tick box because you've got a visually impaired person, you've got a disabled person. Don't think I'm not doing this because if you're just doing it for a tick box, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
If you want to do it for genuine reasons, for listen to somebody who's got lived experience. So I said to them, I'll join as long as it's not a tick box. If you got me on here for a tick box, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
That's good.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today, Mick. It's really important that people hear what you've got to talk about and hear your point of view and your story. It's been really useful for us to listen to it as well. For your time, very much.
If you experience or have experienced challenges with anything discussed in this podcast, you can contact your GP for mental health support. If you live in Cambridgeshire or Peterborough and you are in a mental health crisis, you can call 111 option 2. Otherwise, you can call Samaritans on 116 123 or text the word SHOUT to 85258. For specific visual impairment support, Camsight supports people of all ages living across Cambridgeshire. You can contact them on Cambridge number 01223 420 033 or their Wisbech number 01945 660 795. Thank you. Thank you for listening to our podcast. More videos and podcasts are available on our channel at Sun Network Cams.